You're listening to the Chopped Podcast, episode number 105. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of
FriChats. We got to work on that one.
We didn't even plan that. That was so good.
We needed like a 1, 2, 3, go.
I love it. So, hey everybody, I'm Marley with the blog Namely Marley.
And I'm Kara with the blog Fork and Beans.
And what are we doing here, Kara? This is FriChats.
I don't know. What are we doing? No,
I ask myself that every day.
Yeah, no. We like to chat on Fridays.
Yes, that's chatting on Fridays. That's why we call them FriChats.
That's right. We do a little bit of everything. Soul searching, inner excavation in terms of blogging. I don't know. We talk about the things that maybe other people aren't talking about. We're not here to tell you how to get 1 million views in a month. We're here to tell you how to be happy with the work you put forth.
Because in the end, isn't that what it's all about? Like, you know, the joy and the value in the work that we're doing.
Take us to church, girl. Yep.
I love it. I heard actually somebody say the word vocation. Have you thought about that word much?
Used to, but yes, yeah.
Their point was like, if you're on a vocation, it's not vacation, it's vocation. And it is like work that you're doing because you are passionate about it. And I love that.
Yeah, it's like what you're called to do.
Yes, it's like a calling, right?
Yeah, so it stems deeper than just 9 to 5. It's you live, breathe, and eat your vocation. It's
kind of like what we were talking about last week where, you know, you're doing something because you have a big passion for it.
Yeah, I don't think you can have a vocation without being passionate about it.
It's true. That's
really
true. And you can't do it without having that big why.
That's right.
Yes.
And that concludes this episode of FriChats. See?
I need a bell we can ring. She says, we're all done.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Goodbye, guys.
No, we actually do have a topic for today. That was just a little side trip. Our topic for today is self-sabotage.
Ooh, this one's juicy.
It is. Because why can't we be so excited about this topic, Kara? But it is a big one. I think we all need to talk about it.
Well, you know, if you've been listening to FriChats, and you'll know that like this is very important to Marley and I about, or me and Marley. Hey,
Marley
isn't that a movie? Marley and Me? Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I love it. But it's very important to us because if you don't understand the inner workings of your world, sometimes you start entering a cycle of patterns that might not be working for you. And until you can understand what those cycles are and what those old patterns are, they're really hard to break. And once you do that, it's really freeing. And so it's very important to the two of us that we talk about this stuff because we want everybody to get 1 million page views. We want to get 1 million page views a month. But we also acknowledge that there's more to this than just that. And if you are open to it and you are open to the invitation that the universe is calling you to, you can grow and be a better human being because of blogging, because of anything really. But since we're talking about blogging, it's what we know because of that.
Wow, that's huge. In other words, like having a blog can be a part of you becoming your very connected, in essence, basically, you know, who you're meant to be.
Yes. Like when I was in grad school, my professor would always say, everything is fodder for the soul. So no matter what it is that you're doing, you could be cleaning a toilet or you can be brushing your teeth. That can always be an invitation to understanding yourself.
Wow.
And so, but you have to be open to it, right? And, and blogging, I think, is a great catalyst for that. Wouldn't you say? I mean, my gosh.
You know, it's interesting because I write in my journal every morning, and sometimes as I'm writing in my journal, I actually will, I write to myself. So I will write myself questions because I believe we all have this, an inner wisdom. Yeah.
I love
Well, there's
this.
it's just something I'm pondering, like, why am I doing this or why am I doing that? Or what is, oftentimes I'll ask, like, what should I be doing today? What should my focus be? And so one time I asked myself, why am I doing this podcast? And why am I doing this, whatever I was in the middle of doing? And the answer I received was this: I am in the process of understanding my voice. And it's through getting my voice out there that I understand myself better.
That's so powerful, Marley, because like not only are you understanding your voice, your internal voice, and figuring who you are out, but like literally you're voicing your voice on a podcast,
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, and it really helped me. Like, I think I was wrestling with this concept. Why am I doing? And then it just helped me just accept it more and move on to, okay, I'm going to understand my voice better, and I'm going to move forward now. So I think that's
great.
really good.
I love how you ask yourself questions, because that's like a point. I mean, it's pushing yourself, right? It's going deeper. And I think it has everything to do with what we're going to talk about right now with self-sabotage. Like it's not enough to just say, yeah, I self-sabotage myself by doing X, Y, and Z. There has to be questions behind of, why do I do this? What's behind it? What's my deep belief? So let's get started.
I want to clarify something before we move into the why. And that is, well, it actually is kind of a why question too, but why is it important as a blogger to worry about self-sabotage? I want to clarify.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like self-sabotage can be done in any arena. You can have a glorious 9-to-5 job that you love, and you can be involved in self-sabotage, and it could be a problem. Like maybe you start hanging out at the coffee shop or coffee area and gossiping about people that are going out. To me, that's a form of self-sabotage. It's like you're kind of creating problems for yourself.
You're absolutely right.
I personally feel like as an entrepreneur that self-sabotage is even more dangerous because it can lead to feelings of insecurity and not trusting yourself, not following your gut. And I feel like those are things that can derail you more than almost anything else.
I think that's so well put, because I think you and I can agree too that self-sabotage doesn't mean that you're not becoming successul because of certain. I mean, you might be listening and you're like, oh, I already got 1 million page views a month, but you're still dealing with self-sabotage. So it's just a matter of time of the unraveling. It doesn't mean that one negates the other, but because you and I are very concerned about the well-being of our souls while this is happening and producing happy human beings, fulfilled human beings who are going after their vocation and doing it with joy.
Yes.
You might be successful, but been feeling gross or feeling held back in some areas. And it could very well be just that.
Oh, amen to that. It's just perfect. So then that moves us on to the why. Why are we self-sabotaging ourselves, Kara? Why do we do this?
Oh, because I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. Go ahead. You go. No, you go. Go.
Okay. Yeah. I have this theory that, we have this certain sense of looking for the negative. And I think I've read this, that it's kind of like an evolutionary byproduct, because, there was a time when looking for something bad could help save us. We don't want to see a tiger off in the distance. Yes. But now it's almost like in today's world, it requires us to kind of push that aside a little bit and focus on the parts of ourselves that can, be the light in the world rather than the negative.
That's great. I think that's beautiful, and it's interesting. I never even thought of it as like an evolutionary sort of thought process that actually helped us.
Yeah.
But it's like different now because we're behind a computer screen, and
yes.
Well, I think it's important too to let's talk about like what self-sabotage is, because some of you are like, what are you talking? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, when I think of self-sabotage, I think of it as something unconscious too. Like you don't realize you're doing this. Have you ever been at one point in your life in relationships where it's the same thing over and over again. Why do I keep attracting these crazy men or they're these jerks, you know? I think that could be part of self-sabotage because you're not really understanding that part of you is really attracting those kinds of people in your life based off of maybe a story you tell in your brain that you don't deserve someone who treats you well, or that that's all you're worth. And so you're perpetuating this cycle. To me, that's part of self-sabotage. What about you, Marley?
I agree. That's almost like, what do they call that when you don't feel, you were talking about not feeling worthy. What did they call that? Like imposter syndrome. It kind of is related to that a little bit.
I like that. I've never heard of that. I like that. Yes.
But
okay.
I like where you're going with this. It's almost like, I agree, like you can be attracting the wrong kinds of people in your life because of an unrecognized belief that you have. But,
yes, that's a great way to put it. You're always so good at putting things so succinct. I just like blah, 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 blah. And you're like, boo, one sentence. Yes.
I have to have a gift in this world.
You are good. You got many, girl.
But also, I think there's some other things that can manifest itself as self-sabotage, like clinging to the past. Like, I can see myself in that role where I am like, I have to admit, I kind of pine for the days when I worked at an office. I love collaborating with other people. And I miss that. I mean, I need to quit missing it or find ways to recreate that in my life by finding people I can collaborate with.
Yeah, and I feel like for you too, you were very successful in the office world. And so when you're an entrepreneur, you're in the unknown and no structure. And so you're responsible for creating that. And so it's like easy to want to go back to what we are familiar with and what we felt successful at, quote unquote successful, because I'm sure if you really go back to your time in the office, you probably weren't happy. It's why you started your blog. It's why you started working for yourself. I mean, am I right? Or I mean, so it's funny that we want to go back to those things that killed our soul, but that was familiar too, you know?
It's true. Clinging for that old familiar. It's like that the devil terrible. You know is better than the devil you don't, you know?
Oh, I love that. Yes. Yeah. So, and let me speak to that too, because it's so funny. I've been feeling the same way, not necessarily in my business, but in life in general. And it has a lot to do with like people in my life. I've noticed I'm no stranger to admitting that I'm in therapy. You know, this has been a really hard year. And so there's a lot of things I've been trying to sort out. And one of the things we've talked about is when you start to notice, you know, certain patterns in relationships, usually it's because the universe or your soul or whatever is trying to get you to understand that there is a pattern that needs to be broken here. And so I was finding friendships that were very codependent, that I was giving everything. I was going to them. I was listening to them all the time. Nobody was asking me, not nobody, but, you know, in these particular friendships, it was like I would have to fight to say, hey, what about me? And to me, that's not a friendship. That's somebody who just takes and takes. And I couldn't understand, like, why are these people constantly coming into my life?
Oh, wow.
And my therapist was really gentle in saying, like, not that it was all my fault, but there was something in me that was attracting these people. Yes. And why am I attracted to these people? And a lot of it had to do with that need to be needed. And I liked rescuing people or, you know, helping them out and feeling really good about myself, but like constantly conflicted because it's like, wait a minute, my needs aren't being met whatsoever. And so I started one by one after my mom's passing, disengaging with these people because when you're going through grief, number one, you just don't want extra emotional stuff. But I just knew this was time. This was the perfect time to start letting them go. And there was a point where I felt lonely without them.
I wondered about that. Yes.
Yeah, I felt lonely without the drama and the stress of like listening to their BS all the time. Because these are people who always had something to complain about.
But it scratched an itch inside of you, right?
I guess so. It made me feel good to like be that good friend to listen.
Uh-huh.
But then I also was like crying at the other times, like, hey, what about me? I can't believe I'm left out again.
Yes.
And so there was a period of time where it's like I almost was willing to go back to those friendships because I'd rather have the familiarity of that than the dropped illusion of whatever this was.
So it's huge to be able to recognize that, don't you think?
Yes, because then if you don't, you keep repeating that same cycle. And you're miserable.
I really believe that. I felt like I've encountered some people like that in my life, and usually my reaction is just like, get away from them. I don't want to have anything to do with them. But they come back in a different form of a different kind of person. In fact, I think if you have that experience going on where that person keeps coming back, but maybe it's a different person, but it's the same type of person, it's a sign you haven't dealt with it yet.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And that's exactly what I finally identified was some of these people, when I first met them, my gut said, go away. Do not get close to these people.
Good.
And I didn't listen. And there were various reasons why I didn't listen. Maybe it was through like, I really wanted a friend though, or, or, but she said this and that was really nice. Or, I kind of
or sometimes it's putting their needs above your own, right?
And that's exactly.
They need a friend.
You're right. And that was my problem. Exactly. And so until you start acknowledging that. So now like when I meet people, if I feel that gut reaction, I immediately act on it because my gut has not steered me wrong. So the
other thing I realize in situations like that too, Kara, is what I think I'm getting or giving to the other person is exactly what I need to give or get for myself.
Yes. Yep.
And once I heal that, then I'm able to be out in the world and be a little bit more myself and be cool with it.
That's beautiful. You're absolutely right. Because if I can't communicate what it is I need and not just doing it through my actions and expecting them to read my mind, then I got some work to do.
Yeah.
That's perfect. And so like I even think that beyond relationships and friendships, this really plays a huge role in blogging. This idea of, we had spoken about this. What do you do when, or what do you think when something bad happens to you? Let's say maybe your site shuts down, or, you see people on Instagram all getting together and you weren't invited. What's that message you're telling yourself?
Here's what I say, Kara. Why does this always happen to me? What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me? I'm cool too. Come on, guys.
Come on.
When the reality is maybe you weren't even like this. I kind of want to sound rude to anybody out there, but maybe they just didn't even think about it. It was just like a brain fart on their part, or
maybe your site went down just because it went down, and
right.
The trick is just fixing it.
Right. And so how do you talk to yourself in times like that? What are those messages? What are those stories you're telling yourself?
I really love that because I was just looking at something. It was, I think I have said this so many times. It's really, I should not think of this as funny, but patience is not my virtue.
Yeah.
And I was just reading something about the virtue of patience, and it said, only the weak-minded expect immediate results.
I guess I'm weak then.
I know. Patience is the development of the capacity to accept and tolerate delay and even suffering without getting angry or upset, So I think that should probably be my motto for the week.
Well, and it's like, why do I expect it to happen immediately? And what happens when it doesn't? What am I telling myself in this? What's that deep belief I feel about this?
Yeah.
It's
a lack of patience, a lack of faith in yourself, maybe a lack of faith. And, like I really have been thinking this week about what you said last week in response to your dad talking about the blogging thing and how you said, I know this is going to happen, Dad. I know it's happening. In fact, now it's actually happening. And so I have been trying to be like Kara. Everybody wants to be like Kara.
Oh, no, they don't.
And just say those words to myself. Like, I know this is happening. I know what I'm doing. I feel good about this.
Yes, because I think that kind of goes back to what I was talking about with like the friendships, right?
Yes.
I could go back to what I know, and I know exactly what to expect. I expect phone calls that last an hour and I don't get one word in whatsoever, but at least I'm familiar with it or whatever. Or I can sit in my weeds for, I don't know, God knows how long, and wait for the right thing to happen, and trust that it's going to happen. Even when it doesn't feel like it's going to happen, or it feels really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. It's right now, I can't see how it's going to happen, because we've talked about this, the how, it's not our job to figure out how things will happen. It's our job to trust they're going to happen.
And to create the space for that to happen. And that leads me to another area of self-sabotage that I feel like, we're running out of time here, but we have to talk about, well, maybe we should talk about it tomorrow, Kara. I'm just kidding.
So?
I'm talking about procrastination.
That was really good. I'm like, oh, man.
It's such a big area, and I find myself in that pattern sometimes, and when I'm not careful. And I think it's a big part of self-sabotage we should talk about.
Well, what do you think it is about procrastination that creates self-sabotage?
Well, I'm so glad that you asked that question, because I was reading The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
Good. Yeah,
he is so good, isn't he?
That's a great book.
And he actually talks about that procrastination is the most common manifestation of resistance, because it's just so easy. It's easy to rationalize. We say, okay, I'm going to create the best blog post ever with the greatest photography, but it's going to but I'll start on it tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes. And what's fascinating about that is there is just a variety of reasons why you procrastinate.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
right.
Like
it can, and a variety of ways. Like, it could be watching cat videos on YouTube, or there's just a million ways that you can.
I love it.
There's some great cat videos. Let me tell you.
I had a feeling that you
know.
speak from experience, but
no, of course not.
Yeah. I heard
never watch cat videos.
I just think that like some people are afraid of succeeding and some people are afraid of failing, and that's why they procrastinate. It's not just because you're lazy. Like maybe, and that's what's interesting too, is some people beat themselves up when they procrastinate because they think, well, I'm just not good at this business thing, or I'm really lazy. And that's not it. There's something else. Figure out what you're afraid of, because like for me personally, I'm afraid to succeed. It's not necessarily the failing part anymore. It's what happens when I start fulfilling what I was really created for. That's freaky. I don't know about you, if you've identified why you procrastinate.
Yes, there's a lot of pressure on success. I mean, look at World Series champions. They almost never come back the second year, right?
Yes. Yeah. And
I went a different direction than you were expecting, didn't I?
No. What you did was you brought up bad feelings of the World Series. That's all.
I'm sorry. We should clarify that you're an Indians fan, right?
No, I'm a Dodger fan, but because they got smoked by the Cubs, I was desperately rooting for
I see.
Rooting for the Indians. So
yes.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. But it's common for a team, let's talk about a sport that somebody does very well. It's commonly hard to come back the next year and maintain that. It's hard when you're number one or, successful in something. There's a lot of pressure on that. So I could understand why we fear that.
Yeah. And isn't there like this quote by, do you know who
Marianne
I'm talking
Williams?
about? No.
Oh.
No, I think it's Eleanor Roosevelt. No, I don't even know who it is. Okay, something about. Wow, I'm really doing this justice. Never be afraid to let your light shine or your talent shine in fear that it will overshadow somebody else's. This idea that sometimes. I think, if you unleash your real self and become who you were truly meant to be, there is like that guilt feelings like, but so-and-so isn't there, and I don't want to like seem like,
Oh, right.
So if somebody knows that quote, let me know, because I'm totally
Well, I'm
totally
going to read the
blanking on
Marianne
it.
Williamson
Do
quote.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is really good. I'm sure you've heard it. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
Maybe
It is
that's
our
it.
light, not our darkness, that most frightens us.
Yes. Yes. I'm thinking
Ah,
of both of those. That's beautiful. I want a shirt with that. Yes.
yes. I want a shirt with that too. It's so
Okay.
perfect
We're
because
gonna
I
make
do
that.
think it's easy to fear the dream that we have inside that maybe we don't even know what that dream is yet, but it's coming, it's becoming known to us and we can be afraid of it. But I think how do we overcome that, Kira? How do we overcome that fear?
Well, I think part cupcakes, but no, the other part is I think it's just identifying and listening to your stories. So if you are procrastinating, start asking yourself, what's going on? Maybe take I love what you do when you journal. Like ask yourself a question. Why am I afraid of this? Pay attention to when you procrastinate, because not everyone procrastinates at the same time. Are you a procrastinator? Do you have like great ideas and then you procrastinate on actually executing them? Can you execute very well, but like once it comes to hitting publish on your post, that's when you're like, well, I don't know how the world's going to see this. Pay attention to what cycle of what you're doing is when the stories start to come up and when the procrastination comes up. Because that's going to tell you a lot about what kind of lies you've been telling yourself for a long time.
Oh, that's good. As you were talking, I was listening and I wrote down these 5 steps. So what I heard was identify that you are actually procrastinating. In other words, so for me, it might be that I'm reading up on SEO, but in reality, I'm procrastinating on
Oh
the
my God,
post
that's
that I wanted
great.
to write today.
That's genius. Yes.
So and foremost is just identifying that I am in the act of procrastinating. 2, ask yourself why you are procrastinating.
Yeah.
And then 3, analyze. And that is like, I think what I heard you say is like, is there a certain time of day that this is more common? Is there, some data that you can put behind it? Maybe something happened that caused this
Yes.
procrastination to happen. And then 4, this is like the action side, set a timer so that you can then take your 5th step, which is take a small step towards doing something. Even if you set your timer for 15 minutes, just say, for 15 minutes, I am going to work on this blog post that I need to get done today.
Yeah. Why are you not like a professor or something? Like you're really good. You're really good at this. I'm just impressed.
It's funny. It's like even in high school, somebody was giving a lecture. I don't remember. And I wrote down notes and I gave them my notes afterwards. And they were like, wow, that was like, anyway, whatever.
Probably
I'm good
better
at.
than what the teacher was doing. Yeah, I agree. You're really good at that. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
And I think that was so perfectly put. Yes.
I like to have action steps. And so I feel like
I like
maybe
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, and I think that's good. It's a good takeaway.
yeah, absolutely. So our takeaway is, no self-sabotage happens. Don't kick yourself in the butt over it and just, address it, identify it, and figure out why it's happening for you and understand that it happens to everybody. Have forgiveness in your heart for yourself. And then let's figure out some ways to move forward.
Perfectly put. Yeah. Just know that there's always a story behind it, and figure out what that story is, because it's never just about I'm afraid of making money or I'm afraid of becoming successful. There's always a reason why it has been instilled in you as a young child or a young adult. So the sooner you can start having that conversation with yourself, the sooner you can start moving forward and getting out of old patterns and stopping, or at least decreasing, the self-sabotage so that you can become a happier you.
Oh,
The end.
The end.
No,
That was
you
just
already
perfect.
said it really well.
No, that was perfect. I love it. Okay,
So
so
go
I think
love yourself, everybody. Be gentle. Jeez.
you can do it. You can do it.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's it for FriChats
That's
today.
it.
Unless you have anything else to add, Kara.
No, I'm going to shut up now.
So we hope that you're loving FriChats too. If you are, please go to iTunes or Stitcher and subscribe so you won't miss out on a future episode at all.
Love it.
Yep. And we'll be back next week, won't we?
We will. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.